Assalamu alaikum, Tendai Mari, Hotepa Barigani, Akwaba, whatever your greeting of peace. Welcome, it's the Talk Black Radio Show, and I'm your host, Justin Mohammed. Right here on Amiga FM, each and every week we bring you the news, the views, and the information that is important that we feel to the black community from a different perspective, and we chop it up for 2 hours. With me as ever, I have my partners in righteousness, Brother David Mohammed and Brother Trevor. How are you guys doing today?
Very well, very well.
Nice one. And as ever, we have guests, but this week we're changing up. We're going for a different topic, and we're going to talk about something dear to everybody's hearts: money. So I brought in some guests who really understand the subject, and we're going to be discussing how it affects us, how it affects the community, and what we can do to work together to do better and get some more. All right, so my guest this week is a brother who is, I've not known that long. Normally I've known my guest for quite a while, but this one, haven't known that long, but he's become very important to us. He is Aziz Juma, who is the CEO. He's the head of Creative Concepts of Ascend Property Group, and this is a brother who works in many different fields and excels in the art of actually making products, or actually being productive, sorry. I was going to say making money, but I didn't want to say that because you don't want to say that. Inland Revenue's listening. I don't know what he said this. I don't know how much he's put down on his returns. But he's very productive in what he does. So Aziz, welcome to Talk Black Radio.
Thanks, brother. Thanks.
And he's also very cool. So get close to the radio for the dulcet tones of our brother Aziz. And with him today we have Sister Dayna Byfield. Now, Dayna, I have forgotten your organisation, but I know Dayna she works with quite a big group, and they deal with financial education, really, isn't it?
Yes, we do.
Right. And she's going to be helping us understand just how we can go about getting into financial freedom, how we can, the different things we need to put in place, and just understanding the best ways to use money. All right, so Dayna, thank you very much for coming, and welcome to Talk Black.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right then, as ever, we're going to talk about some of the news, but I'm going to push that to the end because I know you're very eager to get started, and let's just make things happen. So my first question is going to be to you, Dayna.
Okay.
And we're talking about money.
Yeah.
What kind of relationship does the black community have with money right now?
Okay, I think there's two sides to the relationship that the black community has with money. We know about some of the challenges that we face in terms of where our communities are financially, both here and obviously throughout the diaspora. But I also feel that the conversation isn't balanced because there are many of us around the world globally who do have a good command of money, who are doing very well and who are actively working within the community to bring us up. So I just want to start with that point. Yeah,
growing number, I would say.
Definitely so.
Yeah.
With regards to where we are socioeconomically, there is a long way to go. Our relationship with money, if we're talking about our forefathers and sisters and mothers, was actually very good. And all of the modern day monetary systems that we have in place are founded upon African teachings and principles. So I think that's something that we need to understand, that these are the systems that actually our people invented and created.
Yes.
But as we know in society, Europeans have been very good at innovating. So that's really the next step with us. A lot of us were brought up with, even for us where our parents are doing well, a very kind of what I call poverty mindset around money. It doesn't grow on trees.
Yes.
Money's the root of all evil. Those types of things. There was always a very scarce mentality. And even if you look at things like Maslow's hierarchy of need, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of need,
I have never heard that term.
Yeah.
Psychology, you have to enlighten me.
So it's basically about the levels, very much from basic, what your needs are, the food, shelter, water, all the way up to self-actualization.
Okay.
So it's very hard to move to self-actualization if you're constantly worrying about base level food, shelter and water. And I think from a needs perspective, that's where we have been, but also from a propaganda perspective, that's where we're constantly forced and funneled back to. So we inhabit that psychological space. If you're going to move forward, you have to be able to think about, what do I want my net worth to be in 20, 30 years time? What am I going to leave as a legacy? What you think ends up in your wallet. So if you're constantly thinking about, well, I've got to get through this month, I've got to get through this year, there's no long-term stretch and vision, and very, very little in the way of planning. before we take any journey, what do? We plan how we are going to get there. But as a community, we haven't been taught how to forward plan financially, because that's not the mindset in which we've been acculturalized and inhabited in. So it's then very difficult for us challenging for us to make strides, because you plan for the end in mind, then you work backwards. So you know what you need to do.
Yes.
If you run off course,
yes,
you can go back because you have a written plan in place. Very few people, even those who are very good at making money, have a written plan that is clear as day specific. This is what I need to do this year, next year, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years to reach the goals and dreams that we have in place for our family.
Wow. Okay, what Chevron is we all, do you want to make a point?
Yeah, just on that. It reminded me of research that was done with how people think in terms of the gratification. And they did an experiment with children. And they had these young children and they put them in a room with a cream cake thing.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? And they said to this child, okay, if you don't touch this one, I'll give you a second one.
That's right.
And then they left the room and left the child in the room. And there's cameras in the room watching this child. And the child's thinking, okay, I'm sitting there, I wait. But then it's like, I can't wait. And then you find it's picking up the sweet now. It's eating the chocolate, or the cake, even though I know it's going to get too later. But just the desire it right in front of him.
That's right.
It eats. So it's actually a psychological thing.
And then you can basically draw a line by looking at the children who didn't eat the cake and eat the cake, and where they're going to be in 30 or 40 years' time because of that need to gratify now. And that really comes also from a lack of self-worth. I have to buy things now, I have to have things now because I'm not fortified or reinforced enough. So the monetary situation is really just a mirror of the psychological situation in my mind, plus the propaganda in the environment that we find ourselves in.
I like that, because I mean I've heard it said before that money doesn't change people, it just makes you more of what you already are.
That's right.
So
amplifies you.
Yeah, it just amplifies. It's interesting actually. I was thinking as well. I was looking at some statistics around consumerism just in the UK generally, because they're talking about like credit card debt. Over the last 5 years, the amount of credit card debt has increased by 19%. According to the Guardian newspaper. So it's an extra 10 billion pounds basically that is people have got on their credit cards. And so it's like they're saying it's a case of people's wants are increasing but incomes are stagnant. And then there was some interesting things about cars. You know, we all like cars, big symbol or whatever, saying that new finance issued by car dealerships has more than doubled over the past 5 years, and over 30 billion pounds in new credit was issued by auto finances. That was in 2016 alone. So it's like we're in a...
But they were complaining car sales were down the other day.
Yeah.
So now this is where you're getting the bulk of your debt is getting built up, or this is where the economy's running.
Well, they've done different things now, because even before you would have to go maybe to a bank or you'd have to go to certain institutions, but now the manufacturers themselves, more and more of them are actually offering the deal, sometimes interest-free, or having special deals to entice people to buy these cars. And because I think what you said in terms of the self-esteem and whatnot, it's like people feel like they need it.
Yeah, and they want it now.
Yeah.
Whereas our grandparents, you know, they saved, and whatever you needed, you had to make sure you had the money for it. We've been spun this lie, really, in a sense. Advertising industry is worth billions because it creates that climate. And very interestingly, where the monetary system is going, it's very much cashless, which is good on some hands, but I believe negative on others. When you have cash in your hand, you're about to hand over cash, there is a pain receptor that is activated in your brain, which gets
is
you
that
to
the pain
think.
receptor of handing over the money?
It's a difference between here's £200. Your brain makes you calculate and recalibrate and think, is this a good decision?
Yes.
When you have the tap the debit card, there is no emotional connection to this
so
money.
True.
But
so
are you sure? Because look, like you're saying it's true, but you don't really know what cash is like, to have cash and be paying out money. Because I know I've gone, there's no cards this time. I paid £250 for a click suit in Hawkeye Sports World on Harlesden High Street. And I paid out my money, and I don't remember having a negative effect. I remember being that thing you said about needing it?
Yes.
That
emotional thing?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I'm going to look hot Saturday night. That's what I was paying my money for.
But I couldn't imagine actually handing off that much cash.
This from a guy who spent £9,000 on a ride.
Do you know what it was? I was a bank transfer, and I had a plan with that.
All right,
in
here's
terms
my
of
point.
depreciation.
Here's my point I wanted to get to. So you said it's like about a lack of maybe is it internal worth or whatever, and needs are created. Our elderly parents would have saved,
Yes.
but now that's not happening.
Yeah.
So is this really a financial thing, or is this a social thing? Is it an education thing? Because now we're not really in charge of educating our children. I stay a certain way at home,
Yeah.
but I realise if my son goes to school and comes back, he comes back with wants I did not give him. He's picked these things
true,
up on a certain place, and this is a stimuli I would suggest older parents never actually had.
Okay, so if we take it to the opposite effect and we look at very wealthy people like Warren Buffett, for example, he lives in the same house that he's lived in for decades. He eats at the same steakhouse. There was actually a picture circulating on Facebook with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett in the same picture, $160 billion between them, and not a Gucci belt in sight. So other people seem to manage, wherever their children go out into the world, to maintain a culture of, you know what you do in this house. So Steve Jobs reportedly did not allow his children to play with iPads the way that our children do, even though he was concerned about the effects.
Yeah.
So even though they're constantly in that environment, so for me, for a lot of us...
When you say constantly in that environment, what do you mean?
So being brought up by somebody who's the head of a technological company, you're going to be...
not constantly in... You mean constantly in the environment? Because
yes, but
they
also
don't
the
live
mindset of the father.
Yeah, because that's right. Because it's like... And that's my point. It's like being able to control that environment. Because when you can control the environment, you can go, oh no, don't worry about playing with that iPad, son. Why? Because this is what I sell to the masses, to the sheep, to enable you to have a good future. So push that one side, let me and you go in the woods, we'll take the Jeep, we'll take the whatever, and we'll head out. We'll go to Fiji for the weekend on the private jet. If you offer me the private jet in Fiji, then it's easier for me to go, I don't need a Gucci belt and I'm not listening to those people because my dad has a jet. It makes more sense. Do you see what I'm saying? So if we don't have, if we're unable to control the situation, then sometimes when we're talking about finance, and I know this was a point David had made to me before in terms of, well actually he makes a lot of the time, our problems are not financial. So unless we are able to change the mindset, and I know this is what you do in terms of the teaching that you do, unless we're able to change the mindset, nothing's going to happen. However, for me, it's practical applications. I'm about to bring my big brother Aziz in. It's practical applications that allow us to change the mindset, because when you can see how money works, and I know a lot of the time Aziz you spend helping us to really understand the practical application of using money or working with property or digital marketing, but how much more effective would you say it is to actually like just get in and be doing business or in that kind of environment in terms of upping our children's education? Because I know you homeschool and your children have a certain kind of business type education. So how much more is the practicality of doing it helpful in actually changing our mindsets?
Well, it's essential. It's essential. Just touching on a few of those points. Sister made a very valid point about if we're not dealing with psychology, but just those pain receptors. The flip side of that is there's actually dopamine that gets released when we do transactions, and the difference between people with money that are exposed to money and don't actually want for things, and a lot of what we see in our community where a lot of people aren't actually exposed to that, and seeing generations that are very strict with money, and not really about spending. Really, the time that we're in now, money's accessible, and I really always look at things as it's easy to make money, but a lot harder to keep it. And so it really comes down to the education. That's really essential. What you're actually exposed to, and the mindset. So the practical application of things, underpins all of it. Really, I mean, it's really about what we are doing, because our actions, actually speak volumes, and our children are watching exactly what we're doing. So, and they're really going to follow that. As you kind of mentioned, I have 3 children. I homeschool them. I do that for various different reasons. But one of them, from a financial point of view, is that I don't really want it to be indoctrinated in a system that brings them up to be employees and has a lack of exposure to what they're capable of and what can be achieved. And so,
which is not necessarily always put out, but the whole undergirding ideology of the school system is how you make employees for major conglomerates. That's
Exactly that.
that's not the saying school, but you don't understand that's actually how you make employees done. That's full
It's
stop.
like a
Nothing
factory,
else.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's like a factory, and so it's really about actioning and showing and proving really. And so obviously I promote entrepreneurship. I try to do that. My wife does the same thing. So the children are always kind of exposed to that. And we put a key focus on life skills. I'm just talking from my personal experience, but I think that if more parents were to think about things like that, then the mindset of their children would be different. Instead of actually thinking about things as consumers, they'd be thinking about it on a business level.
Yes.
And therefore that would affect directly the decisions that they're making inevitably.
Because so I'm bringing you in shortly. They had a situation where we did digital marketing with yourself, and it's like after we did that, it was so enlightening. It's like I just want to get on a plane and go to China and buy wholesale. I literally had to phone the brother and go, like, I'm on the plane, I'm getting on the next plane to China. It's like, no, hold on.
Yeah.
You can go in a bit, but there's so many opportunities, and it's like you don't realise how the world is working because your head is, like you saying, caught up in that month-to-month thing. But once you can get out of that and see the possibilities in the world,
Definitely.
it's like the sky really is the limit, and there's no. The only thing that's holding us back is the way that we think. And I've met people, as you said, who have money, but when they speak, did you call it a poverty mindset? But like, I'm like, well, what are you turning? And when they've explained to me what's actually turning, I'm like, well, that's good money.
Yeah.
But when they, I barely can pay the water. I'm like, okay, well, if you think like that, then you can barely pay the water.
But
There's
then it
nothing gonna
depends
be
on
there.
your spending habits. I mean, I've got clients that their net worth ranges from zero into millions, but their earnings probably from about 30,000 a household all up to 250,000. But if you're an employee and you earn 250, tax, boom, that's gone.
Yes.
National insurance, pension contributions. You live in a huge house. You live in Westminster, Crouch End. All your 3 kids go to private school. When you buy a toy, you go to Hamleys. You go to Waitrose. Your gym is David Lloyd. There's 5 of you, that's £1,000 a month. So all
because
of a sudden,
wealth is really the difference between what you spend and what you actually.
Wealth it's not about what you earn; it's what you keep that counts. Most people, even someone that earns 25 grand a year over a 40-year working life, will be a millionaire. But most people's accounts don't look like that. You have to take off a few zeros, put a minus in front. They're not. So what are we doing with what we keep? And even for those people who are keeping a lot of their money over time, the value is being slashed because it's not growing, it's not being put into a vehicle where it's being utilised and used, it's just sitting in a bank.
We will be talking about vehicles in a bit because we are going to help our listeners to get an understanding of not just what the situation is, but how we can get out of it. So we'll come back to that. Brother David.